Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the San Bernardino Community College District. I'm Chancellor Diana Rodriguez, and I have the honor of working with 20,000 students across our two colleges, Crafton Hills College and San Bernardino Valley College. The San Bernardino Community College District has served the Inland Empire since 1926. For nearly 100 years, we have opened the doors of higher education and opportunities for thousands of students and families. Today, we are honored to host an educational forum with students from across the region. We have students here with us today from Crafton Hills College, San Bernardino Valley College, Cal State San Bernardino, and the UC Riverside School of Public Policy. We are here to welcome the 34th Attorney General of the State of California, Rob Bonta. The Attorney General Bonta was sworn in on April 23rd, 2021, to oversee the California Department of Justice. He is the first person of Filipino descent and the second Asian American to hold this position. Throughout his career, the Attorney General has led statewide fights for racial, economic, and environmental justice. He has worked to defend the rights of immigrant families, renters, and working Californians. The Attorney General credits his parents for nurturing his passion for justice and fairness. He worked his way through college and graduated with honors from Yale University and attended Yale Law School. Please help me give a warm Inland Empire welcome to our Attorney General, Rob Bonta. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you. Well, good afternoon, San Bernardino. How's everybody doing? Good to see you. I'm excited to be here with you. I'm looking forward to our conversation. Let me first say thank you to Chancellor Rodriguez for your leadership, for your friendship, and thank you to all the students here. I might be delivering this introduction to kick off our conversation, but this is a forum that's really about you and your thoughts and your leadership. It's about your access to health care. It's about your fundamental rights, and really it's about your freedoms and your future. So looking forward to talking as we go forward. Like many of you, in recent days, it's been hard not to feel disheartened about where we find ourselves as a nation. Of course, the leaked draft Supreme Court decision displaying what a lot of us feared, but it really showed our worst fears. A school shooting that took 19 children and 2 teachers. I know some of us are still, many of us reeling from that. An act of horrific racial terror in a supermarket across the country in New York. And I know that weighs heavily on us. So my heart is heavy, and I know yours is too. But also, I feel hopeful and optimistic when I look at all of you because I see a brighter future and a future full of potential. I see a lot of people say future leaders. I see future leaders for sure, but I see current leaders. You're not just the leaders of tomorrow, you're the leaders of today. And you lead with a moral clarity, fighting for justice, for what's right, for the change that we need in this country and in this state. So I see a generation of young people who understand that reproductive rights, those are human rights. And I see hope in this room, and we've never needed that more. So I'm optimistic, I'm hopeful when I see all of you. We need you, so no pressure, but you're going to be leading as we continue to confront the many challenges that we face. And I look forward to the day when one of you is serving as our California Attorney General. And in the meantime, I'm going to do my part to fight for you, side by side with all of you for your generation, especially when it comes to the topic of our discussion today, reproductive rights, which is an issue of fundamental freedom, of choice. It's your right. And that is why we've been active this year. We issued a first ever legal alert in California informing law enforcement agencies that a person carrying a fetus should never be charged with murder for miscarriage or stillbirth. We are not going to be criminalizing pregnancy loss. We also have an Office of Healthcare Rights and Access that is advancing affordability, accessibility, and quality in healthcare in many ways. We're taking action to ensure our laws aren't being violated, no matter where a Californian receives care, from perinatal health centers to correctional facilities. We led an amicus brief in the Dobbs versus Jackson case, the leading Supreme Court case, taking on the Roe versus Wade legacy, to do all we can to support the half-century precedent of Roe versus Wade, including for the tens of thousands of young Californians who choose to pursue degrees at schools in other states each year, including in states that have recently, unfortunately, enacted statutes that seek to restrict access to abortion. We are opposing Texas's unconscionable SB 8 and multiple other abortion bans from states all across the nation, Arizona to South Carolina. And we also work to roll back Trump's harmful rules and regulations that he put in place, things like the Title X gag rule to the separate abortion billing rule. California, we know, is a proud reproductive freedom state, and I'm going to use every tool at my disposal to defend your reproductive freedom, your right to access abortion. I want to thank you for your participation in this town hall today. I'm looking forward to our conversation because I want to know how I can best support you, hear what's on your mind, how we can work together, and how we can lead together. So thank you. And with that, I'm going to call on our first student who's going to kick us off with our first question. Got my list here. We're going to start with Daisy Ramos from Cal State San Bernardino. Hi, Daisy.
Hello, how are you?
Doing great. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. So my question for you is, despite the fact that California is a reproductive freedom state, women have still faced criminal penalties for pregnancy loss. Can you talk a little bit about these cases and what your office is doing to help Chancellor Becker and Adora Perez?
Yes, thank you for that question. I mentioned earlier that we have taken a strong position against the criminalization of pregnancy loss. Unfortunately, there is a district attorney in California who has not followed the law as it's been written, both in its plain and unambiguous language as well as its legislative history, and has prosecuted Chelsea Becker and Adora Perez criminally for pregnancy loss. We believe that that is wrong, that it's there's no foundation or basis in law or in fact for that, and we have made that clear. We've been involved directly in those cases, writing amicus briefs, which are friend of the court briefs, where we opine as the California Department of Justice on what we think is the proper interpretation of the law, how it's being misapplied in these facts and circumstances, and how it's just fundamentally wrong for the law to be misused to prosecute Ms. Becker and Ms. Perez. We've also taken that one step further, sending a first of its kind in California legal alert to the legal community, to judges, to prosecutors, to public defenders and other criminal defense attorneys, to make sure that they know what the proper interpretation of the law is from the perspective of the California Department of Justice, from the perspective of the chief law enforcement officer in the state of California. We made it clear that Penal Code 187 should not be used, as it has been improperly with Ms. Becker and Ms. Perez, to criminally prosecute women for pregnancy loss. So we're all in on this. We've also got one step further than that, which is we encouraged attorneys general in other states throughout the nation where they have similar laws to ours, where the appropriate interpretation is to not prosecute and criminalize pregnancy loss, to send out a legal alert of their own in those states so that the legal community can benefit and no one is improperly prosecuted in those states as well. So this is a really important issue to us. We've been very active, and we will continue to be. Thank you. Our next question is from Janayra San Bernardino Valley College.
Earlier this month, there have been articles that were circulating on the internet that the Supreme Court is to overturn Roe v. Wade. So if this were to happen, can you talk about the impacts that this will have specifically on communities of color?
Yes, thank you for your question. We've all seen the reports of the leaked decision in the Dobbs case that shows a draft opinion. I think it's back from February that provides a reversal of Roe versus Wade of 50 years of settled constitutional law and legal precedent, and that takes away a person's right to choose. That strips away reproductive freedom. That takes away a right that's been enshrined in our federal constitutional law for approximately 50 years. And of course, we've also seen what you expect to see in California, people rising up, pushing back, making sure that they express their views about the impropriety of this decision, how it is, this draft is wrongly decided, and how we don't want to go back and doubling down on here in California to not just protect the rights that women and pregnant persons have had, but to expand those rights to make sure that more have access to reproductive health care, to a right to an abortion, to safe and legal access to an abortion. Let me just also state that that's a leaked draft from February. We don't know what has happened since then with the Supreme Court's deliberations. That draft is not the law of the land. It may be if there's no changes and it becomes the final decision. We'll know when the Supreme Court issues a final decision. It could also have evolved and changed given the deliberations of the Supreme Court. But those who watch the Supreme Court closely are aware of the current constitution of this court, who listened to the oral argument on this case, the Dobbs case, are not hopeful for a decision that upholds Roe versus Wade, and are hoping for the best but fearing the worst. And this leaked Dobbs decision really confirmed many of our worst fears. And to your question, the reality is that disadvantaged communities, vulnerable communities, poor communities, communities of color are going to be hurt the worst by this decision, are going to be hurt first and worst. Those with means, those with resources will be able to access reproductive health care and an abortion in other states, in other places where the right remains intact, is protected by those states, places like California. Others without those means, without those resources, will suffer, will be hurt, will have less access to quality health care, and their health, maybe even their lives, will be put at risk and in danger. So it is absolutely critical to know who will be hurt by this decision. And as you point out, it's communities of color, disadvantaged communities, vulnerable communities. I think we're opening up more broadly to anyone else who has a question or wants to join the conversation. Yes, please, yeah.
Hi, my name's Chelsea. So my question is, the responsibility of healthcare or abortion providers to protect medical information will become increasingly critical if Roe v. Wade is overturned and California sees an increase in out-of-state patients seeking abortion care. Can you talk a little bit about how your office plans to enhance privacy protections for medical records related to abortion and pregnancy loss?
Yes, great question. So, unfortunately, if some version of the leaked Dobbs opinion becomes the law of the land, if abortion rights are undermined, if the settled constitutional precedent of Roe versus Wade is undermined and reversed, there will be states who have what are called trigger laws, who consistent with and contemporaneous with the overruling of Roe versus Wade will then make access to reproductive health care and abortion illegal in their state. And those individuals in those states who will no longer have that access to reproductive health care and an abortion will seek, as necessary, that health care elsewhere. And it may be that some of those states seek to criminalize those individuals wherever they go, including to states like California, that is a reproductive freedom state, which will provide access to reproductive health care and to an abortion here in this state. And so it's important that the existing laws which are very strong for privacy of healthcare information for patients and individuals, that be maintained, that it be upheld, that it be implemented and practiced. And so one of the things we've done is we sent out a reminder to certain groups that have sensitive reproductive health care for individuals, including those who maintain and collect data for different applications around that support women as they go through the pregnancy process and their fertility apps and other apps, to make sure that they are not just following the federal laws, which are very strong when it comes to protecting the privacy of patient information, but also following our state laws, which in certain circumstances go beyond the federal law. So it's a reminder that the California Department of Justice, the Chief Law Enforcement Office for the state of California, is watching, and that we're making sure that those with that sensitive information are fulfilling their duties, fulfilling their obligations, following the law when it comes to protecting patients and individuals. And we have an active legislature as well right now that is considering all of the possibilities of harm and making sure that they are buttressing the defenses, the protections, and including some stronger protections for privacy, some guards and protections against other states seeking information for those who seek care within California. There are some legal sensitivities to those laws, but we are reaffirming the current strong protections for patients, and also have a state that is interested and eager to enhance and amplify those protections as well. Any other questions? Hi.
Hello, Attorney General. Thank you for your time. My question is, as a woman of color, how do we kind of really get our voices heard besides voting and lobbying, because it seems as though those others are speaking upon our bodies and our rights?
Thank you for that question. And this is something that I've talked to many leaders about, including my favorite leader, Assemblymember Mia Bonta, who is a Black Latina of Puerto Rican descent, who feels it's very important, appropriately feels, and I wholeheartedly agree, that all voices are uplifted, and that's certainly consistent with the point that was just made about vulnerable communities, disadvantaged communities, communities of color being impacted the worst by the possible decisions, that their voices are heard. So I supported and participated in a very important press conference of some of the most powerful and influential leaders of color in the state legislature to speak out against the Dobbs draft decision and to talk about the impact on communities of color. And it's important that leaders all over the state, whether you have a title or an elected office or not, step up to talk about how important that is. And that takes a lot of forms, including just reiterating and reemphasizing the truth and the fact of the matter that, as you've just stated, these are decisions made about the bodies of women of color and persons of color, but also to have a voice and agency around what you're demanding, what you're asking for, what you're supporting. Some people have talked about the importance of elected officials that really are committed to reproductive freedom, and I agree. Some have also said that we need to make sure that those in the legislature, those in Congress, support reproductive freedom. That's true, but we need to make sure every elected official, wherever you are, that it's essentially a litmus test that if you're going to earn your vote or the vote of others, that you need to support reproductive freedom, a woman's right to choose. That right be protected and maintained, and because everyone in elected office has a role to play in supporting reproductive freedom. There was, someone said, "What does the city council do on this issue?" And and city councils across the state and some in the Bay Area are starting to ask that question of themselves, and in support, enact ordinances that provide buffer zones of protection for individuals seeking reproductive health care. So everyone has a role in this fight, and it's important that we support those who will not just be good votes, but will be champions on this issue and really see the pain that's being inflicted upon communities of color, stand up for them, and fight for the ongoing reproductive freedom and right to choose. That's in Roe.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. My name is Emily Carrier. So as I understand it, beginning next year, all UC and CSU students will have the option to access medication abortion through their student healthcare centers. And I'm just wondering if there are any plans for California to extend this program to community colleges as well.
Interesting. I will say that I'm sure that is something that is the legislature would instinctively be supportive of, to make sure, because right now we're in a conversation at the state level, whether it be my office, the governor's office, other statewide electeds, and the legislature, asking ourselves the same question: how can we protect what Roe has stood for 50 years, but also how do we double down and not go backward, but move forward, expand access, provide access to more individuals who need it in more places where it hasn't been provided. And that could mean underserved areas like rural areas and urban areas that haven't had service. It can mean providing more affordability for when cost is an obstacle, and certainly it could also mean exactly what you said, making sure that not just those in UC and CSU have access, but also access to the full panoply of reproductive health care for community colleges as well. So thank you for flagging that for me. That's a conversation that I can follow up with some of my recently former legislative colleagues to identify what the pathway is to make sure that no one is left out and everyone has protections that are needed in this difficult time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maritza, and given recent events due with gun violence and firearm violence, what is, sorry, I wrote this all down. What is your philosophy towards the work being done changing? Because you are visiting San Bernardino. I'm not sure if you are aware in 2015 about the San Bernardino shooting. Is there anything actually being done? Because I drive on that street on a daily basis. Nothing's ever changed. There's a memorial. That's it. The violence with guns and firearms, because they are two very different things, but cause the same hurt, I guess. Is there anything actually being done with like changing or making a community safer? Because it seems once an event happens like this, talked about for 5 minutes and then the next thing. So is there anything you guys are actually doing to help a community, especially like San Bernardino, for example, being in such a low income area?
Yes, is the short answer. And maybe I'll add that the short answer is in California, yes, a lot has been done over many years. A lot has been done since the tragic shooting in San Bernardino. More is being done now. We are forever in a continuum of doing more to address our gun violence crisis in California and in the United States. What you described around some folks sending thoughts and prayers immediately after a crisis, but then failing to take the needed action to address the challenge, that does exist in other states. And it, despite the efforts of some at the federal level, exists at the federal level. And my view is that if more states did literally exactly what California is doing, if the federal government did exactly what California is doing, we would save lives, more people would be safe from gun violence, and we would be following evidence-based, sound policy that works. Just over the last couple of days, from the New York Times to the San Francisco Chronicle, have written stories about how California, one, has some of the strictest gun safety laws in the state of California, and two, has one of the lowest rates of firearm mortality, people who die from gun violence, in the nation. And those things go hand in hand. The laws get you that low firearm mortality outcome. We're saving lives because of our laws. And it's simple things that you would think we could agree on, like universal background checks, like using red flag laws so that individuals who show signs of hurting others can have their guns temporarily removed, a ban on assault weapons, a ban on large capacity magazines, which are magazines that hold over 10 rounds of ammunition and are used in have been used in some of the most horrific mass shootings in our nation. Investing in what are called violence interruption programs, which are interventions to stop violence from happening in the first place, things called like ceasefire and peacekeepers. We do all those things. And we're thinking about doing more. One of the things I also want to point out that's specific to the California Department of Justice is we have a first in the nation, unique in the nation program to remove guns from the hands of those who could do harm, who at one point in their lives legally acquired a firearm, but subsequently became prohibited from owning that firearm because of a criminal conviction, because of a disqualifying mental illness, or because of a restraining order. Our agents, the men and women in my department, go knock on doors, not knowing what's behind those doors, to remove those guns from the hands of those individuals who should not have them. We're proud of that program. It works. If more states had that program, more lives could be saved. We're defending some of those laws in court that I mentioned. Assault weapons ban and large capacity magazine ban are two of them, which are being challenged by the gun lobby. The gun lobby doesn't like those laws. We like those laws because they save the lives of Californians and they keep people safe. So we're defending them in court. And we're also saying, what else is there that we can do? And I'm specifically, my office is supporting a bill, which hopefully will become law, that addresses a problem at the federal level that's existed for a number of years, which is there's been a law that provides immunity to gun manufacturers. So even if they follow practices that allow their guns, gun manufacturers and distributors and sellers of guns to get into the hands of prohibited persons, they sell them to what are called straw purchasers, someone who is a legal purchaser of the gun but is buying it for someone else who is a prohibited person. If they let it get into the hands of those with mental illnesses who shouldn't have a gun, then it doesn't matter. They can do all that and they have immunity. They have no liability. They have no accountability. We believe that almost, essentially with anyone, that there should be accountability for your actions, and certainly for gun manufacturers who don't take reasonable and appropriate steps to keep the community safe. So that's a bill that I'm sponsoring and working on right now. There's also a bill that the governor is working on, which is a twist on the inappropriate SB 8 law in Texas, which allows individuals to sue other individuals when they manufacture or distribute or sell illegal guns like assault weapons or high caliber weapons or ghost guns. So we are always seeking about what else, asking ourselves the question, what else can we do? We are not forgetting the lives lost in San Bernardino, in Poway, in Laguna Woods. They are a constant memory and driver of more action. To your point, we need to act. We need to do more. We need to never accept this situation as normal. The gun violence in the United States is unique in the world to America. We're the only one that has it at this levels with these tragic incidents. And there are common sense steps we can take. California has taken those steps, but other states and the federal government need to take them too.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Frank Reyes. I'm a College Board of Trustee here. We're honored to have you here. And I think one of the things that we need to do as a community, we need to recognize that topics that are being discussed could go in different topics, such as healthcare. A lot of people think it's just education. We also deal with transportation, so it's an honor to have you here. Now, one of the things that we're trying to do is that, as you may or may not know, that the San Bernardino Community College District is one of the few community college districts that owns their own TV and radio station. that's why we have an opportunity to bring in people like yourself. And we want to continue to inform our students and our community of the advantages that they can take, and also the opportunity to express their opinion. So the leadership in the state has allowed us to have this forum again. We were able to get a $4 million grant to continue with this. We recently got another grant from the federal, Congressman Aguilar. So this is a good partnership, and we can't thank you enough for including some of the important information. I see a lot of young people here. They should be asking a lot of questions because, like you said, it's not only the future leaders, but our current leaders. So we want to thank you, and we have this opportunity to take the platform to address important topics, whether it be on the political side or whether it be an educational, whether it be information. So we thank you, and my wife was one of the one that was able to get the dollars to be, and it was the leadership of other individuals working together, that this is not just for educational purposes, but it's a community opportunity to inform people. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Frank, for those very kind words, and thank you to you and Majority Leader Luis Gomez Reyes and all who helped secure the $4 million. That's money well spent, as is the federal dollars as well, to provide this forum so that we can have important conversations like this, so that we can share that information with the community. And, to me, very importantly, to make sure that the voices, the powerful voices, the change-making voices of our young people and our students are heard. Sometimes people have asked me, what keeps you up at night and how are you feeling about the current state of where we are? And it's hard to not feel saddened, of course, by what we've seen, what we feel might be in our near future. But again, when I see young people who are, walking out of class as part of a climate strike saying, we need to do more, we need to do it faster, speed it up, adults, get going. That's inspiring, that's motivating, that's the right thing to do. When I see young people saying, with absolute clarity and completely clear-eyed, Black Lives Matter, racial justice is absolutely critical. No one should be judged based on how they look, the color of their skin, where they're from, who they love, how they pray. That's what the next generation represents. That's different than the current status quo. And when I see young people literally marching for their lives, saying, "We're students, we want to learn. We don't want to have to go through mass shooter drills or have mass shooters come to our school. Adults, you got to do better." They're right to say all that, and I know that we are in good hands in our next generation, and I'm going to continue to do my part to fight with the same clarity, passion, and aggression on the issues that are so important to all of us.
Hello, my name is Laura. My question is, in California, uninsured women of the reproductive age account for around 710,000 of the general population. The average abortion cost in California ranges from $300 to $1,500, depending on the length of the pregnancy term when the abortion service is sought. Given the state's budget surplus of 2022 that has just been announced, like the May revision that has been announced by the governor, can you talk about possible subsidies to help pledge low-cost abortion services to uninsured women and marginalized communities?
Thank you. That's a great question, and it's part of the thinking right now that's happening at the legislature. Again, the legislature and California leaders, generally my office, are looking out into California and saying what gaps need to be filled, what additional support and resources need to be provided, what else can we do to make sure that we fulfill our vision and our aspiration of being the strongest reproductive freedom state in the nation, and part of it is making sure everyone has access, including those who are uninsured. To that end, two senators are right now working on a fund for reproductive health care, Senator Caballero and Senator Skinner, and it is continuing to evolve to identify what are the eligible uses of that funding. But this is a year where we can make historic, and the governor is proposing and the legislature is proposing historic down payments on investments consistent with our values, and this is certainly one of them. So I think that reproductive health care fund is something that we should keep an eye on to make sure that it's being eligible or accessible, rather, to individuals who might need it who are uninsured, but at the age of being able to be pregnant and can access an abortion reproductive health care as necessary.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Hannah. Thank you for your time. I was just curious to know as if your office has anything to do with the dealings of over-sentencing and the recidivism rate in Riverside County. I know that it's one of the largest counties in the United States. And just to share a quick story, a close friend of mine was actually sentenced to 5 years in prison when she was 17 years old. She's convicted or charged and tried as an adult. And she was sentenced to 5 years in prison for scratching a CO in juvenile hall. So I feel my question is does your office has anything to do with the over-sentencing of underprivileged youth?
Well, thank you for your question. Just to sort of back out into how sentencing, including in Riverside County, works is generally the district attorneys in the 58 counties in the state of California are responsible for charging and including seeking a certain sentence. Judges are also involved in the sentencing process. And there are some disparities in among counties throughout the state based on how the district attorney in that state or in that district exercises their discretion and what they charge and what they seek for the sentences. So as a general matter, district attorneys are the ones that bring charges, go to trial, or agree to a plea deal that includes the sentencing I think that you're referring to. Our office gets involved largely at the appellate level after the sentencing is already decided upon and already determined. So specifically to your question, the Riverside County District Attorney would be more centrally involved in the charging decisions and seeking convictions for certain crimes that carry with them certain sentences. Broad brush, I'll say it's important to look from the front to end at our criminal justice system and make sure that we are at the front end preventing crime from happening in the first place, making sure that there's opportunities for individuals to make decisions about how to be productive contributing members of society. That means the whole slew of investments, including some of the things Frank mentioned, like access to health care, access to job training in a job, housing security, food security. That's what safe communities, those investments are part of what make communities safe. We also, of course, when someone commits a crime, we need to have accountability. There needs to be accountability for decisions that are taken when someone hurts another person. And the accountability can look like a lot of different things. One of those things is an appropriate sentence for the appropriate crime. And more serious crimes should have more serious sentences. Less serious crimes should have proportionate sentences. And then we also, when folks are fulfilling their debt to society, when they're paying their debt to society, we need to make sure that there are investments to make sure that rehabilitation is part of the plan, and that the recidivism rates that we have seen that are too high, which are really a public safety threat and a public safety concern, that those go down. That can happen with real rehabilitation investments, addressing underlying root causes as appropriate for the individual, whether it be mental illness or drug addiction or anger management or education, job training. All those things can assist, and we need a stronger reentry program where individuals, as they fulfill their sentence and are preparing to go back into society, aren't just left with a few dollars and a good luck at the gate, but are moved into step-down facilities in the community outside of a locked facility in the last 6 months to a year, to make sure that they are being supported for success, that they are getting a job, getting a safe place to live, a roof over their head, access to transportation to get to work, making sure that they have a strong community to support them. We have some beginnings of that, but we need to do more and be more robust in that work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello again. So as we see more and more states, especially around us, going ahead and making abortions illegal, to what extent can California go ahead and help, and what are we currently doing to provide aid for our neighboring states?
Yes. Thank you. The short answer is California, as a strong reproductive freedom state, is looking at the nation as it stares down a leaked draft decision which could hurt individuals throughout the country, and saying, first, certainly, how can we support Californians during this time? But we are a state that has strong codified protections for reproductive health care and access to an abortion. It's in the law. It may be in the Constitution if a current effort to put those protections in the state constitution is successful. But also, we're in California, leaders are asking ourselves, what can we do for those who don't live in states like California, who won't have access to reproductive health care that they have had access to up to now, who won't have access to a safe and legal abortion. And we think there's going to be a 3,000% increase in need or folks seeking reproductive health care in California. So we're doing our best here in California to be ready for that, to provide the additional resources, the additional health care, removing obstacles to that health care so that individuals who need the reproductive health care, who are seeking an abortion in California, can have access to that. Part of it is that fund that is moving through the legislative process to help those potentially from out of state. Other efforts are just strengthening our infrastructure for reproductive health care throughout the state so that it's more available to more people as needed, and that 50-year constitutional right that's been on the books, even if it gets removed from the books, is something that in California, it'll be on our books and can be exercised as a right for Californians and for those who come to California seeking that care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Attorney General. My name is Mariana Lopez, and this year I've been tasked with the honor of, supporting our civic-minded leaders, and that's through the College Corps initiative, and I'm pretty sure you're well aware of this new launching of the program. Something I'm particularly inspired by is our students and their willingness to get engaged in the community. So what is your call to action for us to support the state on protecting these reproductive rights?
Thank you. My call to action is everyone has a voice. Everyone can do something. You don't need to have an elected office to make change. In fact, those not in elected office, specifically students, have driven and created some of the greatest change our nation has ever known, whether it was the civil rights movement or some of the anti-war movements. It's our young people, our students, clear-eyed, full of passion and power, who have stood up and said things need to be different. Things need to change. This is not okay. We can do better as we aspire to meet the aspirational words of a more perfect union. It's a continuum. We always need to seek to do better, to right historic wrongs and fight injustice. And now is a time to speak up and speak out, to lean in, to get involved, whether it be in forums like this or in rallies and demonstrations, going to speak at City Hall, demanding that legislative or that candidates for office will support and defend with everything they have the right to an abortion and reproductive freedom. Students need to get involved and have voices. They're already involved, but I'll say you can't lean in hard enough in this moment. And if there's anything you think you should do that will move the needle, do it. And holding elected officials' feet to the fire is part of that. Ones that are already in office, make your ask, make your demand, meet with them, ask for an audience, tell them what you're thinking, and don't think you need to have all the answers. The most powerful drivers of change that I've ever had was an individual sharing their own lived experience in their own authentic way, in their words, about something in our society that didn't work for them, that hurt them, that harmed them. And knowing that I had the ability to change that meant everything to me. And I often thought about those people the tears in their eyes, the quiver in their voice when they shared those stories with me, knowing that that person would no longer have to suffer that indignity or that injustice, and others like them wouldn't either. So tell your elected officials as young people what you expect of them, and speak out and speak up, and together we'll make the change that's necessary.
Thank you. Hello again. I don't know if I introduced myself earlier, but I'm Chelsea. So we've been talking a lot about protecting the rights of the patients seeking abortion care. I myself used to work at Planned Parenthood up north in Sacramento as a medical assistant, and something that we saw a lot was the presence of protesters. So if Roe v. Wade is overturned, I would anticipate that there would be an increase in the presence of protesters outside of those centers, and it would also place a danger to abortion care providers themselves. So my question is, what additional protections can California implement for the safety of abortion providers and centers in response to an increase in the presence of protesters?
It's a great point, and unfortunately, your anticipation of the likely increase in protests and potential infringement on the rights of patients and the safety of providers is a real concern that we need to think about and be prepared for. I think it's important to make sure that we have that these centers have security plans, that they're in touch with local law enforcement to make sure that local law enforcement is aware of threats and challenges. Our office as well can work with local law enforcement. I've already been in touch with Planned Parenthood and NARAL about this very issue and the need to provide guidance for local law enforcement officials to enforce the laws, whether it be protected spaces and buffer zones, making sure that no one is overstepping their First Amendment rights to of free speech and endangering others, hurting others, threatening others. So refreshing those plans, and then also the legislature looking at the sort of panoply and a variety of protections that exist, and making sound judgments and decisions about what else needs to be put in place to make sure that in California, as this issue continues to come to a head, as protests and threats arise, that patients and providers are protected. So I think it takes sort of two steps: enforcing the existing laws, making sure that they are, those guardrails, those protections, those boundaries are enforced, and also considering new protections as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you all for the time today. As always, people don't believe this, but it's totally true for me. My favorite thing as a California Attorney General, as a legislator, is talking to young people. It's a selfish reason, because I come away inspired, excited, hopeful, and optimistic about our future, and it helps me push harder, fight harder, want to do more to keep up with all of you and to meet your expectations, because I don't want to ever look in any of your faces and have you be disappointed by anything that I've done. So thank you for your fight. Thank you for your engagement. Thank you for everything you've done, are doing, and I know will do in the future to make our society one we can all be proud of here in California. And I look forward to fighting side by side with all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney General. Thank you so much for being here. We certainly appreciate it. Can we give him one more huge round of applause, please? Thank you.